All right, one more video in this kind of series, blast of videos you're maybe watching, and you're like, "Hey, he's been wearing the same clothes." Fixing my little thing here. Hey, he's been wearing the same clothes for like a week. No, I'm just recording these all in one day, like back to back to back. So, if you've been watching this first little series, going from how to implement XR, really focused around this clear assignment for CTK 460. Again, if you're not in that class, these are hopefully of value to you as well. This is sort of the last one I'll record for that specific series. And this is just how to get the component Probuilder incorporated into your project. This is totally optional, though I think once you see it, you'll probably see some value in it pretty quickly. And in your assignment for CTK 460, there's links to some tutorials about this and videos and all kinds of stuff. It's all super great. So let's grab it. So Probuilder, I mentioned this in one of the videos at some point today when I was recording these, that a lot of these things that are in your package manager under Unity registry used to be like standalone things, like they were an app or like a different company made something, and Unity being a major corporation was like, hey, that's really rad, and they bought the company and incorporated it into the editor. You may have actually seen this. This is like the big kind of tectonic news with Unity was they bought Weta Digital. So the company that Peter Jackson founded for the Lord of the Rings and King Kong and all those movies, right? The special effects company is now owned by Unity. And what that means is over time, all of their proprietary software that they made for all of the stuff, the VFX and everything, should in some way find its way into the hands of artists using Unity. I don't know if that's going to be paid or free or whatever, but that's super cool, at least for us in that sense. Hopefully the movies still are good. They still make good movies and it hasn't gone away. But anyways, that's kind of what a lot of this stuff is, right? The one I wanted to talk about was Probuilder. And this one is kind of like, we can read it over here, build, edit, and texture custom geometry in Unity. If that means nothing to you, it's more or less a modeler. Like you can use a really primitive 3D modeler. If you have more knowledge in something like Maya or Blender or something like that. It's like an in-app, really primitive version of Blender, if you want to think of it like that. What we want to do is, since it comes with Unity, but it's not enabled, we can go ahead and hit install here. And this is just going to like basically activate it right in the hierarchy. So let that go, and it's going to do its thing. Shouldn't take too long. It's just kind of installing a few scripts and then allowing some functionality. Okay, so my Probuilder is installed, and nothing looks like it has done anything. The only confirmation you have is under Probuilder here. It should be checked, but you don't have any like way to know that it's in until you start to look for it. Just a note, over here, you see these things like URP or Universal Render Pipeline Support, HDRP, High Definition Render Pipeline Support. Do not import these because you'll get a bunch of errors because we're not using this rendering pipeline right now. And then the editor, the examples and things, if you want to play with them, you can, though it's up to you if you want to just see like those examples and stuff like that. So not necessary to grab anything else. Cool. What has happened though, what is different in your editor is that now there is a tools window. And if you click on tools, you get Probuilder, and then there's all this stuff. Again, this is a super deep program. And I'm just going to show you the top 1%. But for a lot of what we're going to do, that's also totally fine. If you want to dig in, man, you can do some crazy cool stuff with Probuilder in the editor and making really amazing things. So just keep that in mind. But I'm going to click on Probuilder window, and you get this floating window here. And yours may, I think, look like this. I forget what it defaults to. No, yours may look like this. This is the icon view. I can't stand the icon view. It makes me, I don't know what any of this means. Like these are just, pictures, right? I would much rather just see the words. So the way you change that is to right click, icon view or icon mode, text mode. I will always use text mode because I think it looks a lot cleaner. I also always dock my Probuilder if I'm using it over on the left-hand side because it puts this nice kind of vertical space over there. You can keep it floating or whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. Okay, cool. So we have this thing, right? And once again, you want to skim through and try different things in here and play with it. I'm just going to show you the basic functionality. So you can click new shape, and if you hover over, it gives you a tooltip, right? Opens the shape window. This tool allows you to interactively create new 3D primitives. So let's do that. Let's click new shape and you get this window. And let's make a cube here. And you're like, whoa, it didn't do anything. It says cube, first corner, whatever, all this stuff. What you do is in your game or your scene view here, click and drag. And then click and then drag again. And you made this cube. Well, it's like a rectangle-y sort of thing, right? If you want to make it an actual cube, after you have this clicked here, you can resize this here. So go 1, 1, 1, 1. There you go. And that's it. If you want this menu to go away, click off the new shape thing. And here's your cube, right? In the inspector, now if we click on this cube, notice what's different here. We have this thing called Probuilder mesh filter. If you click on a primitive, a normal primitive, it just says mesh filter. On our Probuilder cube, it says Probuilder mesh filter. And that's what allows this to be slightly different. Mesh render is the same. And then it has a mesh collider that we'll talk about in just a second. Okay, so what's so special about this, right? Well, first off, you can edit it. It's like not even first off. That is what's so special about it. So up in the middle of your scene view, you should have this here now. Once you installed Probuilder, these should be present. And what these are the object selection. If you click on object, that allows you to move your cube as an object. But if you click on vertex, you'll notice it changes, and that allows you to select the vertices and deform the cube. If you click on edge select, that allows you to deform and move based on this, just grabbing the edge, right? And just like that. And then face select, you can click on a face and extend or move. Notice also, as I'm clicking through these things, this menu on the side is changing, right? And it's got all these different things. There's tons of different functionalities here. If a lot of this is like totally Greek to you, that's totally fine. Like, again, push me and I'll walk you through what I know in Probuilder. I certainly don't know the whole app. But if you are a 3D background, if you have a 3D background, like any kind of rendering, this should make some sense. I'm guessing you'll see things that like, oh, that's like this thing in 3ds Max or Maya or Blender or something. Then try it, play with it. This is a great prototyping tool. You can do stuff quickly in the editor, get a thing set up, and then get a sense of it maybe in VR, and then you go to your native app, right, and build it. That said, I've shipped apps in VR that have Probuilder shapes in them, because if you're building an actual just like sim or something, it doesn't really matter. Like, it doesn't have to be high art, right? It needs to be functional. It needs to work, right, for the scene, and that's also totally fun. So yeah, super cool. So you can do stuff with this, like obviously deform it and make your cube bigger after you make it, right? All these things, click on a face. You can also do extrusion. So this is super cool. I'm going to click Shift on my keyboard and now grab this face. And you would be like, oh, that looks the same, except now it's broken this up. Now I'm extruding this one, and let's do like this, shift clicking the faces and dragging, and do something like that. And you can make these really cool kind of, geometric things, right? And it sort of looks like stairs I was kind of building there. And you may think, wow, you can build stairs like this. But if you had a keen eye when you went to the Probuilder new shape here, there are stairs. You can build stairs, right? Like this. It's actually a default primitive, which is super helpful. You can change the step count, the circumference. You can make them like, actually run upable stairs. I don't know why I said that. You know what I mean? Like stairs you would go up, like a spiral staircase. Tons of functionality in here. That's super cool. One of the reasons why I wanted to show this to you is because we were trying to get around this problem. Actually, I have to click off of that. We're trying to get around the problem that this is just so lame, right? That's like hoop that I made is so dumb. How do we fix that, right? Well, in Probuilder, in the shape menu, you can make a torus, which is a donut, essentially, right? And then you can actually make it like oblong, but you can actually make a hoop. like that, right? And you can play with all of these settings, the radius, right? Like that. It's really sensitive, but there you go. There's a hoop. Ta-da! Right, move it up. Notice also to move it, I'm in this object selection, because if I were trying to move it like this, I wouldn't have the gizmo there. You have to have the object selection selected, otherwise you can't move your objects. And then you bring it over here, and you can still scale it like a normal object in Unity. And now that's like a hoop instead of a square, like that's standing in for, a hoop game or something like that. Stretch it like that. Yeah, and that looks better, right? It's like more, it's certainly more appropriately shaped, right? The thing to notice here, this has, for physics, it has a thing called a mesh collider. Mesh colliders are amazing. What they essentially do is Unity will create a collider that tries to skin the non-primitive shaped mesh, right? So this is not like a sphere. This is not like a cube. This is not like a capsule. It's trying to go around this thing, right? All of the edges like that. You're going to have mesh colliders a lot in so like custom objects, right? So maybe you want to go and you go into the asset store, which we'll talk about soon, and you grab like a cupcake or something, I don't know. And you bring it in, you want to be able to pick up the cupcake, right? Well, you could like make a box collider on it and grab it. But then you could also like grab parts of the cupcake that don't have a mesh on it. Like you grab like part of if you imagine like the cupcake is this big and the box is around it, you could grab it and you're not actually grabbing the cupcake. You can follow me. Anyways, the way that Unity gets around this is with mesh colliders. It will try to create a mesh around every part of the model and mesh it, which is super cool. The only thing to keep in mind is that is expensive as a CPU task. Almost, I would say invariably, for things that we're doing in 460, it's gonna be fine. Like, don't worry about it at all. However, if you did make like a very complex game, and you had, I don't know, 5,000 mesh colliders or something, it's a lot. That's really, really expensive for the CPU to process simultaneously. And that's why primitive colliders exist. They're easier because it's just one thing. It's the sphere. It doesn't have to account for all different geometry, right? So just keep that in mind. This is the way around it. It's great. But I don't know, not for this class, probably will it be an issue, but in the future, if you're moving forward doing more VR dev or game dev or whatever, that can be a problem, possibly. Yeah, that's it. Probuilder is awesome, man. There's so many cool things you can do with it. Just like really fast and dirty, like something that's super cool. Well, one, I didn't show you polyshape. Polyshape is super neat. You can make a custom shape. So you just click and then connect the shapes. And there you go. So you make any kind of thing. And you may think like, well, that's kind of cool. What would I use that for? You can do this. Now I'm looking top down at my scene. You could bring in a map of something, like a game layout or a map of like a zone or whatever, and you create a poly shape around the outside of the map, right? So follow me on this. Let's imagine here I have this map layout, right? Like this is like a house or something. This is the outside of like a building, maybe, I don't know. And then, oops, try to edit this up. There we go. And that's like, okay, well, that's neat, right? Okay, we've got our shape there, and I'll quit editing, and there's our object, right? So it's like, oh, you built a building, right? Or something like that. But however, if you go inside of this, check this out, right? You can't really, you can't see the building, right? You can't go inside of it. But if you go to the object, or sorry, the phase, where is it? If you go to the object, there we go. If you go to the object, the object, you can tell I'm improvising this one. If you go to the object and click on it, you can flip the normals and do that. So what this has done now has created from this like oblong like building shape, you've created a room really quickly. So you can do that with a poly shape, You can also do this with just a cube really fast. Like you can create new shape, cube like this, that, stretch this up. You're like, oh my gosh, I need a house really fast. I've got to have like a building to stand in, right? Um, you do that, go to object, and then flip the normals. And what this does, if your normals don't mean anything to you, all it's doing is relying on the principle that primitives, in the sense this is a primitive and it has faces, the faces will only render towards the camera. They're only going to render towards you. The reason being it saves CPU, GPU like energy, right? Why would you render something you can't see? You're never going to be able to see the backside of a wall in a game or something, so don't have anything there, right? They're one dimensional, essentially, but they render it that direction, which is fine if you want it to be like a building. However, if you want it to be like the inside of a building, you can flip it. So instead of rendering out, it will render in, which means this is invisible in a way to us. We can't, the camera is looking at this building and I can't see the wall, right? Like this, you can't see the walls. But if you go inside of it, now we're in a building, right? Which is super cool. This is when I mentioned like I've used Probuilder for shipping stuff. Like I've had a couple of apps where I just like really fast. Didn't care at all about what the environment is, but we need something that's physical that we can treat acoustically really quickly. Here you go. You're in a room, right? And that's all you really need. So it's super cool. Probuilder can be really, really useful for doing stuff like that, or like, as we said, like building the little hoop or stairs or a basketball hoop or whatever you want, right? To explore. On the homework, there are lots of videos. This is a great thing. Again, search onto YouTube or just generally the internet. Tons and tons of tutorials out there to help you through more advanced user stuff that you may want to pursue. Cool. Let me know if you have any questions, and happy to help, and hope you enjoy. See you later.